This is what the sky looks like over Tel Aviv for the more than 4 million people who live in that metro area as Israel's Iron Dome system raced to stop Iranian missiles and drones that you see here. This is what they heard. As you saw there, some Iranian missiles made it through. Meanwhile, in Tehran, that country's own air defenses sprung into action. In this video that we see from Iran's semi-official news agency of what they say is their active air defense system following another round of Israeli strikes there. State media reports that several explosions have been heard in parts of the Iranian capital. An American official tells CNN that the United States is playing an active role in helping Israel intercept Iranian missiles. As for President Trump, he praised Israel's strikes overnight on Iran and took to Truth Social twice before Iran retaliated this afternoon, I should note, where he urged Iran to make a nuclear deal, in his words, quote, before there is nothing left. At the White House, the president spent the day behind closed doors, though you see here his defense secretary and energy secretary entering the West Wing. That's around 10 a.m. this morning. Then Secretary Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs Chairman, retired Lieutenant General Dan Kane, were seen leaving the campus not until closer to 7 p.m. this evening. Here's what the day looks like behind the scenes from our reporting. It's been an incredibly busy day here at the White House after President Trump started by convening his top national security aides inside the Situation Room to discuss Israel's strike on Iran overnight. He's been on the phone virtually nonstop and also having a ton of meetings with aides. I actually saw his envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, darting from one West Wing meeting to another earlier today. Witkoff, of course, had been at the center of those talks between the United States and Iran, trying to get a nuclear deal. Now he was in meetings inside the West Wing as, of course, there are questions on whether or not those talks that were supposed to happen with Iran are still going to happen on Sunday. And also as that comes as Iran has been responding to Israel and striking cities like Tel Aviv. I want to get straight to CNN's chief international correspondent, Clarissa Ward in Eilat, Israel. Clarissa, obviously it's just after 4 a.m. there in southern Israel. What have you seen and heard so far since you've been on the ground?
Envision a push-to-talk radio seamlessly integrating into your ideal lifestyle. Simply insert a SIM card and go.
Well, Caitlin, we can actually hear a drone overhead at the moment as we were crossing the border from Egypt because, of course, the airspace over Israel is closed. The airspace over Jordan is closed. We had to fly to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt and drive in. And as we were driving towards the border, you could see the night sky lighting up as those Iranian missiles were presumably being intercepted by the Iron Dome. We could also hear a lot of fighter jets in the skies. Most recently, I would say about half an hour ago, a little quieter now, except for that drone. But certainly the expectation here and across the region is that things are not going to stay quieter. Things are very much on a course to continue to escalate. A lot of concern and anxiety about what that escalation might look like. We heard from the Iranians this evening essentially promising that they would retaliate against the regional bases of any force that supports or defends Israel. That is very much a not veiled threat against U.S. bases across the region. Obviously, we had seen the U.S. pull personnel from various embassies. But even here, Caitlin, in Israel, and I should say we've only been here a couple of hours, but when you talk to people, there's a sense that it's a little different this time. When they saw those missiles making impact on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, when they saw the damage caused by those impacts, when they heard the force of those intercepts and blasts, it really did feel, according to people we've spoken to, different to cases in the past when we have seen the sort of usual barrages coming from the Houthis in Yemen, from Hezbollah in Lebanon, from Hamas in Gaza. And so there is now a very kind of clear-eyed expectation that this is going to escalate further, that there isn't an obvious exit ramp for either party in this conflict, and certainly anxiety around what tomorrow will bring and what the next few days will bring, Caitlin.
I think that's a good point, Clarissa, because some people might be watching all of this and say, well, of course, it's Israel, it's Iran, you know, it's kinetic in the Middle East. But there is a question, even among officials in Washington that I was talking to today, about whether or not this is different and what that difference signifies and what it means.
It's absolutely different, Caitlin. I mean, we were here all last summer when there was a number of back and forths between Israel and Iran. That was already a significant escalation. But the attack that we saw Israel perpetrate against Iran last night, the scale, the scope, the essential decapitation of Iran's senior military leadership, the intelligence breach, all of this has really taken things to a completely new level. I mean, this really is now territory that has not been navigated. There is clearly a lot of anxiety, particularly in the region, a desire to try to de-escalate. The Europeans, I came from Europe this morning, a lot of anxiety in Europe as well, desperate calls from many different countries for both sides to kind of pull back from the brink. But as I said before, it's not really clear at this stage what pulling back from the brink would look like. We've heard President Trump reiterate, oh, come on, come to these talks this weekend in Oman, let's hash out a deal, that's your only off-ramp. But for Iran to capitulate like that in this moment and what that would mean for its domestic political audience, it's difficult to see that that's a viable political move for Iran at the moment, Caitlin.
Yeah, Rose Award on the ground in Israel. We'll check in with you for updates throughout the hour. Also here tonight is the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Yael Leiter. And it's great to have you here, Mr. Ambassador, because the question on what we were just talking with Clarissa about, the attacks that are happening in Tel Aviv tonight, we saw some of those Iranian missiles getting through and hitting on the ground in the area. Can you just update us on what the latest is in the aftermath of that and how many people have been injured?
Well, we faced 3 salvos of ballistic missiles fired from Iran today, about 150 in total, and some 40 people have been injured. 1 woman was killed. And we expect that the Iranians, who have a considerable volume of ballistic missiles, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000, will continue to fire them.
So you can confirm that a woman was killed as a result of Iran's strikes in Israel tonight?
Yes. Look, it's important to understand, they're firing at our civilians. We're firing at their nuclear infrastructure and the people involved in the nuclear infrastructure. We have targeted strikes in Iran in order to neutralize their nuclear weapons program, because the nuclear weapons program is intended to annihilate us. They're firing ballistic missiles into civilian population centers is something entirely different. They're targeting our civilians. This is a criminal state that is on the road to achieve a nuclear weapon, which we have to mitigate. It's that simple.
Has Iran's response and the strikes that they've promised will continue, is it overwhelming Israel's ability to defend itself?
No, Israel will not be overwhelmed. We're a very resilient people. We've confronted one of Iran's proxies now for a year and a half in the form of Hamas. We've lost many people. We lost 1,200 people on October 7th. We've lost close to another 900 soldiers. By American standards, that would be about 65,000 people in a year and a half. But we're a resilient people. We are united in this cause. We have learned the lesson of history. When maniacs say that they're going to kill you, you have to believe them. Just 80 years ago, there was a little man with a mustache running around Europe saying he was going to annihilate the Jewish people, and nobody believed him. Everybody sat on their hands, and we lost 1/3 of our people, and the war was thrust into a Second World War, which cost 65 million lives. Well, the bearded guy in Tehran is very similar to the little guy with the mustache. When he says he's going to destroy us, that's what he intends to do, and we don't intend to allow him to do that.
Does Israel consider itself to be at war with Iran tonight?
Israel is in war not with the people of Iran. The people of Iran themselves suffer terribly under this lunatic regime, these mullahs that are really a death cult that celebrate death. So we're in a war against a regime that is intent